Hey, good morning, Misfits. It is May 21, 2020. I hope your month is going along absolutely extraordinary. Many of you are in the profession of MLM, me loving more, me learning more, me leading more, moms leading moms, mentors leading mentors. I can think of 1,001 things that this profession is, and it's not just its compensation plan. So today we've got a little bit of a fun thing I wanted to just let you in on. It is live. Poems by Vach is now an official PDF, downloadable, along with Audible. And if you go to SeanGMurphy.com/Vach, you can get your first ever. It's a daily awakening special. We kind of argued over the pricing because of the content and the information. I heard it was apps and saw, plus you get all of it written out, but you get it in this way as well.
One, I didn't cry. I didn't do much as I stripped, as I peeled off the shell that was holding me. I could have sworn I saw the print of your skin stitched to my body.
You get it read by the author. So not only do you get the book, but you get the audio on book, the audio on the book. So it's I think it's 7 poems, and they're pretty amazing. So if you want to support one of our family members, you can go to SeanGMurphy.com. It's right up there, /Vach. Oh, and by the way, if you happen to enjoy the poems, and I believe you will, and you send a thank you back to her, she's going to send you another poem that she had written for her grandparents, which that one will make sure you got Kleenexes, is all I can tell you. And so it's just a pretty amazing conversation. So all of those, again, we'll talk about it throughout the rest of time probably, but there's going to be, now that she knows that she can do it, now that it's launched, listen, some of you are all, like 10 of these have already been purchased. There's no limit on it. I'm not trying to put a rush on it, but because of some of your commitments and your just absolute desire to serve, 10 of these sold like last night, just from her telling people, hey, if you want it, go there. So anyways, there you go. Good morning, Misfits. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me see if anybody's got their hands up before I start jumping in. There's Latoya. Good morning, Latoya.
Well, good morning. Great day, everyone. I want to just start off by congratulating billionaire Vach for her poetry book, and I just want to congratulate her. That's amazing. Thank you, Sean, for being there, helping her launch that book. Oh wow, this is amazing. Thank you all so much. There's so many great things happening right here in this community. It's beautiful.
Well, it was, and thank you, Latoya. The reason that it got started is because of all of you. And I need you to hear that. Yeah, I put some resources behind it and had some team members just throw some content together, just put it together, right, and do what we do well. But the whole thing comes because of you and because of us falling in love when we hear her read the poems. So when we said we were going to put the PDF together, we said, well, yeah, but we got to have you read it. What do you mean? You're going to have to record it. So yeah, it is pretty cool.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You bet. So again, it's pretty amazing. Well, alrighty. So let's see here. What happened yesterday was there's a couple, again, as you start to come through. Oh, by the way, send out your 3 messages of joy, of gratitude. Oh, that's me. Of joy, of gratitude, of awakening to others. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know they're being thought about. Because it's a pretty important time that's happening right now. There's a lot of transition that's happening. There's a lot of people who are coming to an awakening of what's happening right now, and they're trying to find a place to find their footing. So as you start to have conversations with people, I would encourage you to become aware. And let me just click on here. Why'd all the chats get small? Did I shrink that down? Okay, let's see. Did I forget good morning, love? Yes. No, let's go ahead and send out that good morning, love. Let me look here real quick. My meditation was all over the place this morning. I know you're not supposed to be thinking anything, but for me, it was like, what is going on here?
You're welcome.
Oh, so you had something to do with that? Oh, I think this quote came from Helen Keller. In this past weekend's mastermind that I was in, Colonel Cole, 31-year Marine, said this, and he used this quote: "A bend in the road is not the end in the road unless you don't make the turn." I think we're all going through bends right now. And we've got to be able to adapt our direction, adapt our flow, adapt our conversation with people. You may have changed, you may have adapted, you may have adopted, you may have made the turn, but how many people do you know? All of us, how many folks are on here right now? The 88 folks. How many of you know people who are kind of hit the guardrail in that bend, and they're standing there screaming and hollering? And maybe it's not because they hit the bend, maybe because they see you driving away. They see you able to make it. They see you able to make the turn. They see you adapting to this new environment that's called the world. Let's see here. How many of you read your goals this morning? If you read your goals this morning, drop a G in the chat. Here's the next question. How many of you wrote out your goals? How many of you wrote them out? Drop a W in the chat. Because here's the thing. In this hypersensitivity, do you know why a pressure cooker works? A pressure cooker works because it increases the amount of pressure, the atmospheric pressure inside the pot. Well, and it's got that little thing on top. If you've ever been around a pressure cooker and it dances, and you can change it based upon the amount of pressure in the pot, based upon where you, now this is an old style pot, right? This is one from my mom's mom probably. And you rotate the little weight on top based upon how it leaves the pressure, lets the pressure out. Things are happening at a hyperspace, right? The world's spun on a dime. Some of us are still catching up. Some of us are on our heels. Some of us were in the ready position. Because right now, the world needs service. And are you in service to it? That's what it all comes down to. Marketing, here's marketing in a sentence. Marketing gives people a reason to brag. Good marketing gives people a reason to brag. Why do people buy Bentleys and Lamborghinis and all Ferraris and all of these things? Because it gives them a reason to brag. They can afford it. They can afford to brag. How about your business? Can you afford to brag about your business? Do people brag about your business? Do people brag about being with you? That's cool. Alex just got his poems in Serbia. So Vach, you are officially an international poet.
You are a European sensation, sister.
Hey, Sean, I'm trying to purchase it, but it's not allowing me for some reason.
Okay. We'll work on that. So Yeah, I'm not sure. Normally that sends you an email back and then you get the download, which is a big funny looking link in your email. And then it should be right there. But we'll work on it. I'll have my team, you can reach out to support@SeanGMurphy.com. And let's see, it's only 7:41 for them, so they're still up.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
I just purchased mine too. I'm excited.
Yay. So this pressure cooker that we're in, maybe your family is under it as well. I know, I see how it affects my son. We drove by his place of employment. Yes, he has a job. You know, he's done, ever since he was little, he's done things that we've had to do together. We got to do together because my childhood was a little odd growing up on a farm compared to his. So roller skating and things like that was the first time I've ever done it with him. But now he's done something I've never done. He's had a job. I know that sounds weird. And it's funny to see me go by and watch him work. And he loves it. He does an amazing job. He's a darn good employee for the time. He's going to cut his teeth learning that and being of service and seeing what it's like to be around people. What are you cutting your teeth on right now? What new skill or talent are you learning? I did a live the other night and Tajikistan was on the call. Seriously, Tajikistan. And I'm probably saying it wrong. But it's this little tiny, and I looked at it and it's surrounded by like Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. And I'm like, wow, the country that neighbors you is Afghanistan. Interesting. And this guy was building a business. He was studying from universities here in the States. The world adapts pretty quick. So what experience are you going through right now? One of the things he talked about was how, did you know, he says, I'm studying public speaking. And they talked about your words are only 7% of your conversation. And I kind of smiled and I said, yeah, as a public speaker for 30 years, I do know that. Do you know the 13 other ways it's broken up? He said, no, I only know of the 3 other ways. I said, yeah, those are the 3 big ways, but inside of each of those 3 ways, anyways, my point is this. Has your voice changed when you're having conversations now? If I could serve you all right now, I would encourage you to slow down your dialogue when you're having a conversation with a prospect. You will literally watch their shoulders collapse. You'll watch them swallow a little bit less intense. If you've ever watched anything in courtrooms, the tells that come off in that pressure cooker, when somebody is possibly not telling the truth, the tells they have. How many of you have children? How many of you know when your kids are pushing the edge of the envelope of truth, or just flat out lying, but maybe they're pushing the edge of the envelope? That tell, that ability to see that tell, and grandchildren too, yes, and grown but adults have their tell. It's going to be pretty much, a tell is when something happens like that. It's not when somebody crosses their arms. They might be cold. That might be their place of security. If I could encourage you to look at body dynamics, to begin to understand micro expressions, because here's the thing I do know. Right now we're having conversations with people, and the great news is we still have Zoom to be able to see somebody face to face. as you begin to engage back out into the world and you start to see people with masks on, I can promise you, you're going to get very good. You're going to get very good at being able to read micro expressions from the eyes. Right now, we don't even know how to look at somebody. Many people don't. We're going to learn a whole new skill. I would encourage you to start to pay attention to the energetic expression behind what you see. As you begin to look and do more Zooms, the conversations you could have with people, if you notice, I look at the camera. You all are over here on this screen or this screen. I've got 3 screens here. I would encourage you to learn how to look into the camera. And we talk about don't look more than 6 seconds, right? When we're face to face with somebody, don't stare somebody down. I'm going to encourage you to look as often as you can into the camera and put some, I don't know, put a sticky note around it, cut a hole out and put a big sticky note around there so that you know exactly where the lens is. If you want to increase your connection, you want to increase your retention, you want to increase your enrollment rate, look at the camera. Because if you're doing a presentation and you're looking over here, boy, there is a huge disconnect. You watch people when they start doing their Zooms and they're looking like this and they're going, and because we're creatures of connection, they're looking at the screen going, and I'm talking to you and I can see every one of you and this, and they're like, you're not even looking at me. You're going to have to learn a new skill of being able to look at the camera, even on your phone. I watch people who get on the lives with me and they're looking at their phones and they're looking down at them. They're not looking up. Just that 4 inches can determine whether somebody connects with you or not. Yeah, Emily says the eyes don't lie. But watch this. I'm going to look 1 inch away from the camera. Can you tell the difference? If I'm looking right here, can you tell the difference if I'm not looking at you? Just tell me. If you can tell the difference, type a D in the chat. It is that critical. This skill of being able to communicate a 3-dimensional story over a 2-dimensional platform is huge. Why have I been lucky enough that my teams continue to grow and a community that never really used Zoom is because that was one of the first skills I taught them. Look at the camera. Go cut a circle out of go put fingernail polish around the camera. Go put a big sticky note that says, look here. I promise you, your community, the recognition you give to your team, because here's the thing. There's 122 of you on this call. Some of you are looking at the camera. Some of you aren't even looking at the screen. That's okay. But the ones that are, I'm going to give you the chance to look away. I don't need to look away. Your body is designed, you will automatically look away. You'll flash away. The attraction to distraction is there at a micro expression. So if you learn this one skill of staring into the camera lens, I mean, not like, ooh, I got you, but staring with consistency. If you slow down your voice a little bit, give people a chance to habitualize to your pace, your pattern, your timbre, your pentameter, the way you now, of course, you can get excited about things, and excitement is good. Learn how to sing with your voice. Right? Johnny Cash did that. A lot of times he would just say the words in his songs. He did pretty good. What's the music behind your words? That's your essence. Remember, nobody is going to pay you to be a teacher. We go to school for free. Many of us go to school for free. Learning, being taught is a free skill that we acquire. If you're becoming a teacher, you should get paid a teacher's salary. If you become an inspirational teacher, you may get paid a little bit more. But when you become the unlocker of dreams, when you become the freedom giver of thought, that's when Jim Rohn says, that's when you start providing value. And your vibe will begin to create your tribe. Is this making sense? If it's making sense, drop an S in the chat. I'm just curious. Because it's so, to me, it's so basic. But I don't hear anybody teaching it. Well, thank you for that. My daddy said this, if it makes sense, it'll make dollars. Right now, people are looking for connection. I'm hearing people all of the time, give me a reason to fall back in love with myself. Give me a reason to know that where I'm at right now, it's okay. Give me a way that I can serve. That's what people are asking for. And sometimes, just like now, if I went to my email, I'm sure there's a bunch of orders that are there for those of you that place the order for Vach. Think about this. You know that you are in service to this young poet, this amazing little soul. I say this little soul, this huge soul, this little voice that we hear on the other end of your speakers. And we hear her read these poems, and every line connects to the other in such a way that causes us to go, oh, and we see the depth of the depth of the depth. That's what poetry is. It gets us to think and feel in a way that maybe we've never done before. The reason that I wanted to get this out, to help her, to push her, I've said, okay, send me your poems over. I'll have the team put a PDF together. You'll work on stuff and we'll get this out. What? Because the more we learn poetry, the more poetic our presentations get. Can you present in such a poem of success that people say, I want more? That's what we're doing here. That's what all of this is. That's what every one of these morning calls is. It's a poem. Now, sometimes it's me being the angry poet. And it's me giving you the old what for. It's time for you to take your place. It's time for you to stand in front of the room, right? My daddy always said this, the one with the pen in front of the room makes the most money. So when I couldn't spell, still really can't spell a whole lot or well. When I couldn't do math, when I couldn't do algebra, when I couldn't do all of these things that we had to do in school that they were teaching us, I stood at the front of the room. And I was the one with the pen. And so I've always learned how to get to the front of the room. Jennifer started to do last Friday her first Zoom team call, motivational call. Luis Martin, who you know, who's down in Puerto Rico, that young, amazing soul with that curly hair that like most people would just want to like take that home with them. He started doing his training calls. Some of them last 2 hours, 3 hours. One of them lasted 7 hours, and they start like at 8 o'clock at night. Some of you have been, how many of you have started a team call or a community call? If you started a community call, type a CC in the chat. If you've started some kind of community call. Congratulations, Jeremy, Latoya, Jessica, Mia, Joanna. Shaquila, congratulations. Thomas, Malik, first one this Friday. Congratulations. Moshe, great. Yona, listen, the world needs you. It says in a pretty good book out there, when two of you are gathered, I am there. Napoleon Hill talks about it. When two of you are gathered, you now create a mastermind. Is it Cheney Porter? Congratulations, went live for the first time. Who's done a live for the first time? Anybody done a live for the first time this week? I just see Cheney doing that. Or maybe it's Shaney. I'm not sure how it's said. So Melissa's going to do it today. Last week, Emily did it. Hey, Emily, did you blow up in flames? Julie, way to go, Juliani. Great. Awesome. Whoever did a live yesterday or recently, the first time, Cheney, okay, like the vice president. Awesome. So whoever did a live, jump on here real quick. Julie, can you talk? Where's my little peanut, Julie?
I'm here.
So how did it feel?
Oh my God, it was so nerve-wracking. It was very nerve-wracking.
And did you get any response?
Yes, I did. Everyone was like, because I did it with somebody else, and they were
Yep.
like, oh my God, I didn't know that was your story. I didn't know. It was one of my good friends and business partners. She was also expressing her story.
Yep.
And people were definitely saying, like, thank you. You should do these more often.
So how did you feel when you got done?
Like, I accomplished something.
Okay, so Jules, here's the thing. I need you to, I know you probably journaled it. I'm really going to ask you to go back and dive deep into the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why. Because you're military. You went up 4 ranks, I think, in your service. So you started off as the beginning and you ended as a sergeant.
Yes.
Yeah. So you went through that in the military, in the man's world. But now you come out with all of that title that you have and all of that experience that you have and all of the leading of groups of men that you had, a platoon or a group, and you were scared to death to go do a live.
That's crazy.
And now you did it. I'm going to encourage all of you who did your first live recently. I don't care if it's a year ago. Go back and remember your first one, because when everybody calls you lucky and they see you successful, you got to say, listen, just last week, just last month, just last year, I did my first live with all of the success I have and I've faced bullets, and this was scarier than facing bullets. It gives them the courage to know you're human.
You know, going back to what you said earlier about communication, Sean, you know, I've worked heavily on that because, I mean, you know how I used to speak before.
Yes.
And it's funny because every time I talk about myself, about my story,
Yep.
I rush through the words. Like, that's the only thing that I haven't changed. And I wasn't even aware.
Right.
But now that you're mentioning my military experience and everything, I really don't think like it was such a big deal. Like it
Yep.
was something big. So every time I'm doing a presentation or speaking to a prospect, I just rush through it. I don't even let them finish because, you know, most of the time they're like, oh, thank you for your service. I don't even let them finish. I just rush. So that just, what you said today about communicating and letting and slowing down when speaking to a prospect, I wonder how come, you know, we don't give each other's credit. Like we don't give credit to us or to ourselves
Right.
when it comes to our story.
Because our story makes us unique. This is for everybody. Listen, what Julie's saying is true for all of us. Our story makes us unique, and we don't want to stand out. So think about it now this way, my love. You don't want to stand out, but you sit there and go, well, tell me your story. What pattern do they have to tell their story? It must not be important. So I must rush through it and let me minimize it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there going, no, but tell me more. It's like, well, why should I tell you more until you tell me more? Brene Brown says it the best. No one has permission to hear our story until we give it. So if you give somebody the permission to hear your story, the law of reciprocity says they're probably going to give you permission to hear their story. I'd encourage you to not rush through it. I'd encourage you to give people a place to show their gratitude. Give them a place to feel that the slightest way they could be in service to you, I'm going to cry, is to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Imagine the joy you give me as your big, big brother to speak to you this way, that most people won't. Your beauty won't let them speak to you this way. Your service in the military, most people don't know you have military service.
They don't. I don't even have a picture on Instagram.
So I have a Marine colonel in 06, and he's got a salad on his chest that most generals don't have. Now, for those of you who are not military speakees, that's all of the medals that are on his chest. And he sat in the back of a room 5 years ago, and in 04 was in the front of the room who went to Afghanistan, Ron White, a member with the Navy. And he signed up and he said, do we have any military in the room? And this gentleman raises his hand in the back. I didn't know him at the time. He says, and what branch, sir? He said, the Marines. He says, what rank? He said, no, 06. And he snapped to attention. Ron White did. And he said, attention on deck, Colonel. And this guy, the Colonel, just absolutely kind of like caved in. And I got a hold of him. This is my first meeting with the Colonel. I'm poking him in the chest. I'm going, I can poke you right here because you've been poked a lot, Colonel. I said, if I ever find you sitting in the back of the room cowering over your military service, I said, you can kill me with your thumb right here and I wouldn't even know it, but I'll leave a mark on you somewhere. And that was the start of releasing him from this bondage of nobody really cares about that. So much so, if we sat down with the Colonel and you told me your service and you told me where you were and how you ranked, he would do a deep dive on you that you'd swear he had a drone flying over you 24 hours a day. That's how, the way I know the soul and the brain, he knows that in the military. And he can tell me when you enlisted, where you went, what medals you have, because you did get some medals, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And he could tell me exactly what those were for. You got to understand, these medals were given because of this, 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 and this, and this. See, you've never told anybody those stories.
I have not.
No, you have not. Those medals are sitting in a drawer somewhere. And you haven't even filed your DD-219 to get your extra set.
I haven't.
Every one of you are sitting here, 135 of you are sitting here going, wait a minute, this is a farm boy from Ohio. What is he talking about, DD-219s? If anybody's in the military, drop a DD-219 if you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I know about this? Because I decided to be able to have a conversation with somebody who knows about this. Here's my point. Tell your story. Give people a chance to fall in love with your story. It is a lovable story. And what happens is that they now hear the chance to be of service to you. And by the way, I love you, my dear.
Thank you. I feel like I've struggled. I've had this conversation with you so many times, and I'm just so, like, I am so afraid.
Sure you are. But here's the thing: you did your military. You did your Facebook Live, which was tougher than any boot camp. How long have you been out of the service?
It's been a year now.
And
Almost a year.
how many times have you been on social media besides like 4 or 5 times a day? Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
And standing up in front of a camera where there's no bullets and there's no brass screaming down at you, you couldn't do it. And now all of a sudden you've done it and you didn't blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt great.
Could you do another one?
Of course, I'm doing one today.
Awesome. Look at that. It's just like any other drug. Oh my God. People like me when I do this. Now, be aware, the number of views and likes may go down because they become habitualized to it and you become another news station in social media. The way you keep the views up is thank the people who show up. My views on Instagram, my Instagram lives go a lot longer when I say, hey, who wants to jump on and have a conversation with me? Somebody from Tajikistan was able to jump on. I was more excited than they did. I took a screenshot before they did. I go, I got somebody from Tajikistan on the call. It gives people a reason to be recognized. This is everyone this is just 101 conversations. Anybody on this call, and so Julie, I'm going to ask you to help me with this. Anybody on this call, parents Vietnam, grandparents Vietnam?
No, I'm the first person
Okay,
to join the military.
You're the first, so thank you for that, changing that. So Ada is RC, has got somebody Vietnam. If they're alive, and listen, if you see anybody with a Vietnam hat on, you may not know this. Grandpa W2, Alicia, is he still alive?
Yes, he is. He's 93.
Okay. Do you know if he, do you know what arenas he was in? Was he stateside? Was he the European front? Do you know where he was?
He was in, he went to Europe. I know that.
Okay. So Alicia, I need you to reach out to me. I'm going to ask you if you would be kind enough to reach out to me. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your grandfather, because there's a chance I'd like to get the colonel to reach out to him as well, if he's able to take a call and have a conversation and just get some gratitude, because he came home, shoved his medals in a drawer, and pretty much not talked about him much anymore. So I say all of that to say that I just want to see if we can pay some more honor and respect to him. If you see anybody with a Vietnam hat on, just stop them for a second and just say this to them: welcome home. Shake their hand and welcome them home. I know now with COVID and everything, but just welcome them home. And don't be surprised if you see a little tear in their eye. I'm just going to leave it at that. That's something that's huge for me. And my family didn't do any military, but being able to welcome them home, I can't tell you, I've welcomed home probably 300 Vietnam vets in my events and in my speaking engagements. And one of the most proudest moments was I was at an event where there was probably 3,000 people, and I welcomed him home, and I asked the question, how many times have you been welcomed home? Is this the first time or the second time? He said publicly, by somebody who didn't know me, it's the first time. This was last year. His bride calls me once a month and says, that was one of the most proudest days I've had, to stand next to my husband and watch him being welcomed home. I say that to say this: you get to sit across from everybody, every prospect you get to sit across from, you get to welcome them home to their dreams. Would you act differently? Would you have a different conversation? Would you stop trying to be the center of attention and be the attention of the center? People ask me all the time, how do you do what you do? How do you stand in 30 countries and have conversations and move people to do heroic things, because I said I hang around people who are heroes. This ain't me. I've just found good. I become great at finding your hero, and it's not me. It's you. You're your biggest hero. You're your biggest fan. And when I can get you to believe that, and when I can walk you into that state, all of a sudden you become the hero in your life. And then when you learn how to do that with others, give them a chance to be the hero to their family, to their spouse, to their parents, to their kids, life becomes beautiful. Does that help y'all? Moshe, good morning, Moshe. Moshe's got his hand up.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to say
Yay.
thank you all. Thank you all. Love you all.
Love you. You love you.
I'm so grateful because I feel like you're my soul brother, man. Like
Wouldn't doubt it. Wouldn't doubt it. You're the sexy one with the beard, so.
Thank you. It's just like everything that you say, it resonates so much with me where, you know, I've never been the guy that wanted to be the center of attention, right? But I've always wanted to help people, right? I've always wanted to help people find that inner confidence of themselves and be their, you know, their true hero, like you just said.
So Moshe, let me help you with a little bit of language.
Yes, sir.
You listen, I can't spell grammar, so I may not even be using the correct terminology. I've always wanted to.
Exactly. And then that's what.
Yeah, but you're not wanting to anymore.
Yes, exactly.
You were doing it.
Yes. That's what I was going to.
Good. Mm-hmm. Okay. But again, Bruce Lee says, don't ever make fun of yourself, even if it's about yourself, because the brain doesn't know truth from fiction.
Yes.
So go ahead, continue, please.
I apologize for interrupting you, but
no,
it's, you know, when you sent me that voice note yesterday, I'm like, you know, it's like we literally can read our minds and we know that, like how they're operating, right? And so that's funny that you said that because it's exactly where I was going.
Cool.
that I wanted to, and now that's what I am doing, and I've accepted myself, right? You know, finally I stepped into it. And you know, my friend and I, that we've been friends since high school, we started what's called Breaking Bread with Moshe and Jose, right?
Why do I picture a car with a bunch of smoke coming out of it when the doors open?
That's funny.
Cheech and Chong, Moshe and Boshe.
Well, the content sure can probably make you feel that way of what that herb would probably do to you. So, you know,
at least the DEA is listening. Go ahead.
this whole time we were talking about it and just talking about how we want this and this and that, and trying to make it too perfect instead of just saying, why don't we just do it, right? And so, like, we did our first live on Tuesday, and it was so freeing because for the first time we decided to step into the world, right? Yep. And I will say that I had to thank you for that as well, because you and Nano, because this platform has allowed me to accept the mind that God blessed me with, right? And just sharing with everybody here as much as I can, whatever I can, because that's what we're here for, is to serve each other, right? So I just wanted to thank you again for all these things.
You are welcome. And thank you for being courageous enough to learn to use your voice. I think you know what I mean. You've always
Yes,
been
sir.
able to use your voice, but to speak it out and to speak,
Mhm.
because again, when the first time you showed up here was speaking into that head of hair that's up there on the top, RBP, we call her Pink Robe Lady. And it changed the trajectory in her days dramatically. So thank you for that.
And I wanted to share a story of what really caused that. So my mother was like my best friend.
Yep.
And I lost her almost 2 years ago in August to a disease called pulmonary fibrosis. And it was the reason why she got that disease was because she was a smoker since she was 18 years old.
Yep.
Right. And so at that time I weighed about maybe 230 pounds, 225 pounds. Now I weigh about 185. So when my mother passed away, I went from leaning into her to finding myself, right? To leaning into myself. And what it allowed me to do was ask the realest questions that I've asked myself in my life, right? And so instead of I just decided to review my entire life and decisions up to that point and
Yep.
get rid of that old story, as you would say, to stop pushing the blame on other things and taking extreme ownership for my life, right? And I said to myself, you know, from this moment forward, anything that I decide and anything that I fail at, it will be because of me, not because of anybody else, right? And so the fact that I see you doing these things for people, like taking that old story and making them look at it and hold it in front of their eyes, like, this is not what you want, throw it out and move forward, is so beautiful to me. Because, you know, I didn't have that, but it's okay. I'm okay about that.
Right.
But the fact that, you know, we can be that for other people is such a precious gift, and it's I'm so grateful for it. And I thank you for allowing me to see that too.
Love you, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for being
Same.
one of the shining lights in the world, like we all are. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's go to iPhone 13. I think I know who that is. Is that Evelyn? Good morning, Evelyn. Look at that smile.
Yeah, good morning.
Good
How's
morning, my
everybody
love.
doing?
Outstanding.
I wanted to share about the story that Jennifer, I think she was talking about.
Uh-huh.
And it happened to me the other day. Like, since I've been in network marketing, I was looking at mom's stories, right?
Right.
And some of them, I was like, wow, but I don't have that story. Right. And I was listening to other people's stories that they were like, I'm like, but I don't have that story. Like, I thought my life was good, you know, like I thought I was like, okay, well, compared to that, like I'm good. So how I'm gonna get to people, right? And the problem is right there. We beat ourselves up for our story, but we don't give the value to share it to others. And then
Absolutely.
I was hearing another person's story and I was in tears and I was like, oh my God, that is my story. That person was talking about being bullied when she was little, and now this is something else. When you say you don't make fun of yourself because your brain doesn't know what it is, right? That is a lie or is a joke.
Mm-hmm.
We or Latin family is so common for us to be bullied, for us to call you stupid or you're so dumb, you're so this, you're so that, right? And we become so like okay with that is not bullying.
Right.
We become so okay with that story that we tell ourselves that every single day, that when other people treat us that way and it's okay. And I understand through that girl that I was like, okay, that's my story. I see now what is it that I need to share and where is the pain that I've been having with that story. And that's what I need to share. And it's about giving the value, changing the story,
Mm-hmm.
but giving the value of the pain that we went through so we can that way connect to with other people. Because that was actually, I've been sharing a lot more about that. And so many people have been bullied. So many people still bully. And so many people still bully themselves every single day with this bad vocabulary or bad expression about us. So just wanted to
So,
share that.
Evelyn, I appreciate you sharing that. And that's a
Yes.
huge step for you. As an actress, don't be surprised, because I've worked with many in the past. Don't be surprised if this new awareness is you seeing a new script to read versus it being you taking on the method of becoming that actress. Let me say it again.
I'm not getting you.
Yeah, you have you ever read for a part and had to act different than you are? Right? You told me that when you go into and when you get cast in novellas, you're sometimes the good girl. Right? And you play that part. Have you ever done any bad girl things in the real world? No.
Bad things in the real
Well,
world. No.
not bad. Have you ever done any edgy things, fun things where
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's real world. When you start to talk about this pain and this bullying that you talk about, there's going to be you're going to go through a couple of phases. You're going to go through the phase of you being that actress talking about it and truly feeling the pain. And then you're going to be the girl who sits in that story and feels the pain. So there's going to be a couple of versions of it. And what you're waking up to right now is the tip of what you're waking up to. Because you are absolutely right. I deal in Latin America, and the stories that I hear that are very consistent about not only verbal abuse, but possibly some physical abuse that happens typically inside of that culture, that there's some old stories there. And when I see a strong Latin woman specifically, because that's the world I spend a lot of time in, what I see is I see women who have a strength that I couldn't even begin to imagine. And then when I say it's time for you to unfold that, the power that comes from that story being unfolded for other women who have gone through that exact same story. Yeah, the African culture is pretty much the same. It's amazing what happens. So here's a question I ask all of my students, Evelyn, when I start, and this could be CEOs, this could be sales and marketing officers of $200, $300, $400 million companies. When you change your story, be it as a company or be it as a person, and this is for all of you, when your story changes and they start to see the vulnerability through your story, here's the question that I ask everybody. Are you ready for the love? Because it will be overwhelming. Some people stop telling their story because they don't know what to do with all of the love that comes back. Because we think people love us. We think we have this connection with our community. When we start to get real and raw in a very vulnerable state, the transition that happens is almost indescribable. I speak to that because I've had it happen in my life. I've witnessed it in my students time and time and time again. Are you ready for the love? And here's where the big challenge is. Anybody who unfolds during this particular moment in history is going to be overwhelmed. Because right now, all of this misplaced authority, people losing their jobs, people on unemployment, they're looking for a place to have control. And the one thing most people believe they have control over is where they place their love. Are you ready for the love? This is for all of you. Julie, when you go and tell your story and you let people, that's why you rush through it. That's why you rush through your story, Julie, and you won't let people, thank you for your, okay, no, well, don't worry about that. Girl, you got to get ready for the love. Evelyn, get ready for the, you know love from lots of people. There's going to be a new level of connection. Tell me a favorite dessert you have. Do you eat dessert? I look at your body and you probably don't eat a whole lot of dessert.
I'm not a sweet person, to be honest with you.
So what's your favorite meal?
Um,
What's your favorite meal?
Una arepa.
Okay. Have you ever had a bad,
Con huevo.
yeah, con huevo. Have you ever had a bad arepa?
Sí.
Have you ever had a bad one?
Uh,
Not as good as others.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But yes.
can you remember one that was absolutely amazing? Do you know where you can go and get the best version of that meal?
Yes.
What if there's an ingredient list called that? How come some are not so good and some are amazing? And we know where the amazing is. See, we're called humans. We're not called male or female. We're called human beings first. We don't say male human or female human first. We say human being first. Why are there good humans and bad humans? It's because people have worked on their ingredient. They have worked on their recipe. And when you change your recipe, when you allow the recipe, that secret ingredient of love to flow in, two things are going to happen. You'll be overwhelmed at the beginning of true love flowing in. The second thing is you'll have so much more to give out that your world will be elevated almost instantly. This is for all of you. In this awakening to ourselves, that's why this is called the daily awakening. Used to be called get out of your effing way. And for me, that's still something I need to work on every day. Get out of my own frightened way, my own fearful way, my own fatigued way, frustrated way. But when we let the world start to love us, right now, for just sake of conversation, Evelyn, there's 130 people who are falling in love with you. They see your smile. They see your beauty. They see your vulnerability. And all of a sudden, you're starting to feel something different. Julie, you can even hear Julie's voice change when she has a conversation with me. Hi, Sean. She becomes this cute little bucket of love. And she ran military. She advanced 4 ranks in our military. She ran a platoon. I don't know if that's the right name. I'm not that military-ish, but she was in charge of groups of individuals in a military level. But yet she gets in front of me and she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, stop it. You're this amazing soul. And this is a tough one for ladies because there's enough of us jerks out there called men who make you think or give you this illusion that they want to do business with you, and the only business they want to do with you is stupid stuff. So you have this shield up going, talk to the hand, and it's hard to deal with. And those are the ones that find you easily through social media, which is why I encourage you to start posting some more on social media, ladies, more about the leadership lessons you're learning. You want to get rid of some of the creepers? Ask them, what was the last leadership post I put on my social media? The challenge is that most of them don't know the last leadership post that you put on social media. All they see is you in your tight dress or your bathing suit. So listen, some of your posts, I got to scroll past. My mom has been gone for 7 years or 8 years now. And she'd smack me if I looked at some of your posts. And I'm a 54-year-old grown-ass man. but I'm still afraid of my mama. My point is this, ladies, you have an unfair advantage over somebody like me, but there's a lot of things that are said to you that are unfair because you're not, there's a lot of doubt given to your credibility. So I would encourage you to just step up, share your story in a way that keeps them from having any questions. So Evelyn, go ahead, Evelyn.
Something else that I found when I started sharing that story, it was that like I noticed that maybe I didn't want to say it because it had to do with my parents. It had to do with them being the one that abused me verbally and physically. And to me, my mom is everything to me, and I never want her to feel any type of way, even though that every time now that I share, you know, I say very clear, like, I know she didn't do it because she didn't love me, but because she didn't know better. That was what she received. That's what how she grew up. And that's what, like, you cannot give what you don't have, right? Yep. So, but I still feel that fear of like that part of that story or going through that deep or the biggest reasons why I went through network marketing, it was like because I didn't want to end up like my mother. I didn't want to end up waiting on a man to support me. But talking about that, it makes me feel that I am hurting her, or if she and pay attention because she's now learning English. So most of the time I'm speaking English, right? So, but now she's understanding more, and I have this fear that I don't want her to feel that I'm attacking her, that I'm feeling some type of way about her, because I actually don't. I forgive her a very long time. And everything I do is because of her and for her.
So speak from that place. You know, I'm going to share with you some things about my mom, but let me be very clear. My mom is my biggest hero. My mom grew up in a time I can't even imagine. Her mom grew up in a time I can't even imagine. And you know what? And you know what the great thing about my story is they did the best they could that allows me to be the best I can. And I'm going to tell you some stories about my mom because I want to be able to, because people look at me as this actress and this place of that I've been elevated to in my life. And it's only because of my mom. But I worked on myself through some personal issues that my mom couldn't help me with. And that's the story I want to tell you today, is how I overcame some of the best things my mom ever taught me, that now I look back, we can always say she could have done better. And the answer is no, she couldn't have. I'm blessed that my mom gave me everything I have, because it's allowing me to speak to you, my audience, now, to share with you how I overcame some of the things that have changed in this world. So now you can tell the story and still hold your mom in honor.
Thank you so much. That's so liberating right now.
Does that help?
Yes, a lot. And one more thing.
Yes, please.
I never have the journaling, and I've been listening to you about the journaling and listening to other people and Nano saying like how valuable have been for him, but I never done that, and I want to start. But I feel kind of some type of way doing that.
Okay. So I would encourage, so you've heard Nano speak, yes? And yes, when you hear him speak about journaling and you hear him talk about his calls, just to give you an idea where he learned all of that from is from me. You'll see he carries now the same kind of journal. He's a good student. He's an amazing soul. I'm honored to see what he's done. The reason that he's doing all of those things is because he came to me one day and said, I want to be able to do what you do. And he always gives me credit for that. And I'm forever honored for that. The reason that journaling is so important is no different than why do the writers give you scripts? So you can lead the story correctly, right? And if you say your script, there's certain words, you know, that as an actress, you've got to say them just right. in order to make the scene work.
Mhm.
This makes the scene work called your life. When you start to, when you go back and you want to look at the way you've grown, when you want to go back and look at the lessons you've learned, I would encourage you to journal. What did you learn today? What did you do well today? Who came into your life? The reticular activating system in your brains, and this is for everybody, the reticular activating system in your brain allows you to find the things you're looking for. Have you ever looked in a drawer, Evelyn, and opened the drawer? Somebody said, it's in the drawer. And you open the drawer and you go, it's not in here. And they're saying, it's in
All the
there.
time when my mom told me to go.
And then all of a sudden your mom opens the drawer and it's in there. And you're like, that wasn't in there 2 seconds ago. Ay, mommy, no está aquí. That's called the reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system causes the brain to next. It's nexting for what we're looking for. That's why if you're looking for trouble, you'll find trouble. If you're looking for joy, you'll find joy. So tell your mind what it needs to look for. And that's what journaling does. It allows you kinesthetically through writing to allow you to
Forex Rob Army. Kama.
Where do I trade?
Forex Rob
Where do
Army.
I
Oh my God! Abi has the Forex Rob.
Where do I trade?
Yo, we gotta swap them, bro.
That's okay. That's okay.
Have
a great day, whoever you are.
Where do I trade?
Oh my guys, sorry to hear that, but
Don't
I
pay
know
attention
some
to
scam.
them. It doesn't matter. It
Rob.
doesn't matter.
Everybody.
It don't matter.
Rob.
Forex Rob. Fuck off, all of ya. Forex Rob, mate.
Hi, how yo?
Forex Rob is king.
Forex Rob.
Keep looking for those pussies.
Forex Rob to the world and back.
Hello.